after 1 year of war. You cannot underestimate the Ukrainian people, but it is the 30-member alliance forged more than 50 years ago, and its support of Ukraine that has been critical in hindering Vladimir Putin's attempts to recreate a unified Russia. As this war enters its second year now, joining me is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Julianne Smith. Ambassador, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Happy to.
The NATO alliance has remained strong throughout this conflict. Some would argue got even stronger. But Vladimir Putin is showing no signs at all of backing down, despite the cost of lives and treasure, even in Russia. Should the world be prepared for a prolonged stalemate in this fight? Could we be in the same place we are if you and I are having this conversation a year from now?
Well, let's hope not. There's one person who could end this war today, and that's President Putin. And the NATO allies are united in two things. One, NATO allies are going to come together and continue to put maximum pressure on Moscow to alter Putin's strategic calculus. And two, NATO allies are united in their support for Ukraine. Every member of the alliance is providing assistance of some kind, whether it's humanitarian and economic or military assistance. And I see no sign of that changing in the weeks and months ahead.
So today, the Wall Street Journal, I'm sure you're aware, is out with an exclusive report that says two of NATO's biggest members, Germany and France, are floating the idea of a proposal of a pact with Ukraine in order to get Ukraine and Russia to the negotiating table, and are urging President Zelensky to consider peace talks with Russia. We've heard what he's said on this in the past. So I'm wondering, is there anything you can tell us about a proposed pact, and is the U.S. urging peace talks as well here?
Right now, we see no signs that Russia is willing to come to the table and negotiate some sort of peace process going forward. And so our focus right now is getting as much assistance in the hands of the Ukrainians so that they can continue to prevail on the battlefield. In terms of any proposal that's put on the table, we're always willing to look at fresh ideas, but we want to make sure that we let the Ukrainians ultimately dictate the terms in terms of when they're willing and able to come to the table.
The U.S. pledged an additional $2 billion in military aid to Ukraine today, and the first Leopard tanks are being delivered to Ukraine from Poland as well. What more can and should NATO be doing to get more advanced equipment, including tanks and those all-important fighter jets that President Zelensky has been talking about for quite some time now, into Ukraine? And how quickly could we see something like that happen?
Well, assistance is moving right now as we speak. The focus for individual NATO allies has really been in two main categories. We're focused first and foremost on air defense. The Ukrainians have exceptional air defense, and we want it to stay that way. Secondly, NATO allies and other countries around the world that are providing security assistance are focused very much on armor, and that means armored vehicles like the Bradleys and the Strykers that the U.S. is providing, but also the Leopard tanks that you just mentioned, and eventually the Abrams tanks that the U.S. will be providing. In terms of the question on jets, right now we don't have plans to send fighter jets, but we continue to be in a conversation with the Ukrainian military commanders to assess what the requirements are and whether or not we have the ability to deliver on each and every one of those.
Along those lines, Ambassador, you've heard President Zelensky talk about the jets. He needs the jets, and he says that's the difference in prolonging this war and allowing Ukrainians to die every day or stopping this war. Why is it that the U.S. has not given him the jets he needs?
Well, again, this has been an evolving set of conversations since the war began. We don't believe that sending the jets right now is an immediate short-term solution. Of course, we're happy to keep talking to the Ukrainians about this over the medium and long term. But most importantly, any system that the U.S. or any other country sends must be able to be sustained. So fighter jets, that's an extremely complex system.
Part of the concern about that spring offensive is now Russia is talking to China, and the U.S. has been concerned. Secretary Antony Blinken has warned about it, that China might be giving military aid to Russia. How dangerous would that be, and what would the UN's response be?
Well, we were worried about this before the war even started a year ago, and we issued warnings to China not to provide any sort of material support to Russia. And they have held the line, by and large, over the last year. We're issuing very clear warnings that if they chose to do that, we would essentially alter our position vis-a-vis China. There would be consequences. It would reshape our bilateral relationship.
Would that, in effect, bring us closer to a larger conflict involving more of the world?
Yeah, first and foremost, we want this war to end. We want Russian troops to leave Ukraine. But the priority is also to ensure that this war doesn't escalate, that it doesn't start to fold in any other countries. And NATO has been very deliberate in staying out of this war. NATO is not playing any active role whatsoever on the ground. And we've opted to do that for a very clear reason. We're focused on helping the Ukrainians defend their territory, and we want Russia to leave Ukraine as soon as possible.
U.S. Ambassador to NATO Julianne Smith, thank you so much for your time tonight. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.